Crazy numbers that make you think involving the Texans and the Browns. An exclusive interview with one of the members of the Texans leads to a sneak and a deep peek into the locker room. Not this locker room, the Texans locker room. Plus, a lot more to get into. Playoff time, baby. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do.
Numbers. Could I interest you in some stats? Could I interest you in some numbers? I come with 10 numbers involving the Texans and Browns and their matchup that kicks off Wild Card Weekend. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2. Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Also got an exclusive interview this week with Sheldon Rankins. Normally when you ask a question like, what was your message to the team? Because everybody was talking about how he had a message to the team. The player gives you some sort of casual, just, generic description of what was actually said. Sheldon, if you're not excited for this game, I can promise you will be when you hear Sheldon Rankins tell you and tell me and tell us what he said to the Texans in anticipation of the game. Let's start with some numbers. Be sure to subscribe, right along. These numbers will spark conversations about certain stuff, but there's just 10 numbers that I find interesting. Some will be stats, others will just be crazy. First, number 16. Number 16, absolutely crazy to me. Number 16. It might be all downhill from here, but the number 16 in this game, why is it relevant? Because some of you might remember when you turned 16 years old, you got your driver's license, you got to drive to school, you drove to high school, you felt cool, all that type of stuff. Joe Flacco, I'm sure, had that experience as well when he was 16 years old. That same year, when Joe Flacco was 16 and had a driver's license, CJ Stroud was born. That's the age difference in these quarterbacks. CJ Stroud was born when Joe Flacco was 16 years old and driving to school. That's insane. We talk about this quarterback matchup. Obviously, Joe Flacco, he's battle tested. The Jets had him in their locker room recently, and they didn't even consider giving him a call when bleep hit the fan at the quarterback position. The Browns, they didn't do it quickly. It almost seemed like a last-ditch effort. He's the fourth quarterback that they've started. And Joe Flacco is in position to perhaps make another run like we've seen him do so often. Joe Flacco deserves his flowers for the season that he's having, as does CJ Stroud. But that age difference is crazy. It does kind of feel like both of these guys might have a sense of the moment. But obviously the quarterback edge goes to the Texans with CJ Stroud. That's just pretty insane. There. Next number, as we go through the numbers, Texans versus Browns. 2/15, 2 out of 15. That's the next number. CJ Stroud has 15 career starts in the NFL. In 2 of those starts, he's been the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. So 2 out of 15. You do the percentage, whatever that is, like 1 out of 7.5, whatever the percentage is. That's what, 14% maybe, if I'm not mistaken, 14-ish percent. CJ Stroud has been arguably the best offensive player in the AFC in 2 of his 15 starts. That's beyond impressive as well. So that's the next number. Next number, I think you probably will be able to say what this one is, but there is a follow-up on it that I find interesting. 265. That's the amount of receiving yards that Amari Cooper had the last time the Texans took on the Browns. 265. He was all over the place. Amari Cooper had 11 catches, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, 265. Since then, he's been nicked up a little bit. And heading into this game, this is the next number, 73.5. So he had 265 yards last time. That has struck fear in a lot of Texans fans' hearts, rightfully so. I mean, that's a historic type of performance. You don't see too many 265-yard receiving games at any level of football. But the people in Vegas are pretty smart. They seem to have a pretty good grasp of which way things are going to go. Sometimes you hit the over, sometimes you hit the under. More times than you can even believe. A lot of times they're right in the range of where they put these props, whether it's a production prop, passing, receiving, rushing, whether it's point spread, over, under, all that. Usually they're pretty accurate to what actually ends up happening. 73.5 is the over-under for Cooper yards in the wild card game. 73.5. That's what they have it at. So Las Vegas doesn't seem to think, and this almost looks like a sucker bet, right? Because I'll be honest, if you told me I had to book this bet or I had to take this bet and I had to bet either way, I mean, I was at the game. I watched the same game that y'all did. I've seen, the Texans struggle at times against the pass. I know Steven Nelson's hurt. I know that D'Amico said that Derek Stingley's not going to follow around Amari Cooper. So if I remember that, if I'm making this bet and I remember what Amari Cooper did the last time they faced, and I see this low number, it's probably going to be something I would jump on. Those are usually the ones that don't end up hitting. So, if you're really scared of Amari Cooper, maybe that number will make you feel a tad better. Maybe it won't. David Njoku is another story. We'll get into that a little bit later on, the whole Njoku thing. 73.5 over under for Amari Cooper yards. Next numbers, 73.9 and 38.3. 38.3. That is CJ Stroud's QB rating versus zone and versus man. 73.9, and then it goes down to 38.3. That's first in the league against zone, and then tied for 27th against man. Cleveland runs man, I think, 39% of the time. This is according to ESPN Stats and Info. Jake Trotter, who covers the Browns, used to cover Oklahoma. Used to actually do a Big 12 podcast with him back in the day. But shout out to Jake Trotter. I think that's crazy. CJ really good against zone. And there's been kind of a push. A lot of people have talked about it. I've heard Stutz talk about it. I've heard B. Scott talk about it. I think I heard Clint Sterner talking about today. The Texans offense versus good defenses and how much they struggle. I think there's a lot of gray area in some of those games where you can point to reasons, maybe excuses. But I guess we'll find out this week with the Browns, although the Denzel Ward thing is interesting. He did tweet out, a picture of him running through the tunnel today. So the people, the good folks in Cleveland seem to believe that might be a hint that he's going to play, but who knows? When we're talking about a knee and you're talking about the cornerback position, I don't know that we can say for certain whether or not we'll see Denzel out there, but the man has been what CJ has struggled with. There can be gray area on all of that. Next, number 4. This is interesting. I just mentioned Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward was the 4th pick in the 2018 NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns. John Dorsey picked him. Buddy boy picked him. That was a pretty good draft for them. It was actually very good for them. Did you know how the Browns got that number 4 overall pick? They actually acquired it the year before, along with the second-round pick in this same draft that we'll hear about in a sec. They actually acquired it from the Houston Texans. Denzel Ward was the fourth pick in the 2018 draft, which was the Texans' original first-round pick that they sent in the Deshaun Watson trade. Next number, we're staying in 2018, 35. 31 picks after Denzel Ward was selected number 4 with the Texans' original first-round pick. Nick Chubb was selected number 35 overall with the Texans' original second-round pick. Of course, Nick Chubb hasn't played this year. One of the best backs in the league, a guy who the Texans are very familiar with. Nick Chubb used with the Texans pick and the Browns with that trade, with those trades. The Nick Chubb was actually an Osweiler trade where they traded the second round pick for the Browns to take Osweiler. So the Watson pick, they got one of the best corners in the league. The Osweiler pick, the Browns got one of the best running backs in the league. So 4 and 35 were the most recent numbers. Next number, 2 and 11. 2 and 11. This is what Texans receivers combined, not named Nico Collins last game, against Indianapolis production-wise. The Texans receivers not named Nico last game, 2 catches for 11 yards. Denzel Ward could be hurt, and he could literally kidnap all the other Cleveland Browns corners to where they can't play tomorrow, or can't play Saturday, I should say. And 2 for 11 from the Texans receiving corps will not be enough to win this game. Not named Nico Collins. Nico Collins had 195. That's not going to fly. And fortunately, it looks like they're going to have Robert Woods. Could have Noah Brown. So I think they surpassed the 11 yards probably in the first quarter, maybe maybe even in the second. But 2 for 11 ain't going to fly. The Indianapolis Colts secondary ain't walking through that door. And Gardner Minshew ain't walking through that door. So that's not going to fly. 2 catches, 11 yards. Yeah, you're going to have to do better than that if you want to win the game. Next number, 1.7. This one's crazy. Will Kunkel put this one out. Will Kunkel of Fox, he put this one out. He said Derek Stingley has allowed a 1.7 passer rating in the month of December. That'll get you AFC Defensive Player of the Month, and it damn sure did. The interceptions, a 1.7 passer rating in the month of December for Derek Stingley. That's a wild ass number. Final number. I said I had 10. Here's the final number. And I'll continue to talk a little bit about this ball game, which I'm very excited for. I saw Joe said, it looks like I need some rest. We need you on game day. I mean, I'm looking forward to sleeping in. Might not be able to because I'm too wired up. But who says my eyes are low because I'm tired? Think about that, sir. Think about that, my friend. Final number, though, and I appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, and right along. 1470 is the next number. Does anyone know what 1470 means? 1,470. 1470. Tomorrow, Saturday will be 1,470 days since the Texans hosted a playoff game. 30 short of 1,500 since a playoff game was in H-Town. I remember walking into that stadium. There were a lot of Bills fans. And quite frankly, it was an absolute bleep show of a game plan by Bill O'Brien. He peed his pants the next week against Kansas City. He didn't have a play. He went gutless. He was just as bad in this game, but that was when Deshaun Watson saved all butts. Crazy thing, Deshaun Watson, who was in the building there, who was the star of that game, he might be in attendance. But it's been 1,470 days. January 4th, 2020 was the last time that the Texans hosted a playoff game. 1,470. Insane. That's absolutely insane. Other news with the Texans. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Laramie Tunsil was not named an All-Pro. I didn't even know this was controversial. I like Laramie. I think Laramie's fine. Friend of the radio show, but I didn't know this was like a controversial thing. That like when was Laramie supposed to be an All-Pro this year? I know he wants to, but I saw my boy Texans Cap. Shout out to Texans Cap. He was talking about he was kind of surprised that Tyron Smith was on the made it over him. I don't think Laramie's as good as Tyron Smith when Tyron's out there. It's a big, maybe type of thing. It's a big, if, because Tyron Smith is never completely healthy. But I think Tyron Smith's a better player. And I know you don't use PFF as the gospel. I mean, Tunsil played 30 more snaps. He had 7 more penalties. He was tied for 8th most. Tunsil allowed 5 sacks. Tyron Smith allowed 1. The overall grades, I think, 83.8 to 73.5. And again, take it for what it's worth. I think Laramie's good, but I don't. There might be a time when he has an All-Pro season. I don't feel like this year should have been that year. Maybe y'all disagree. I don't know how many guys are. I don't know how many guys are like really watching left tackles. There does seem to be, but Laramie's got he's a good dude, and he's got a lot of just say he doesn't have to carry his own water. Intriguing non-Texans QB, non-Texans Browns QB battles. I want to look at this. JJ says he's taking Tunsil over Smith. Knees are harder to play through than upper body stuff. Okay. I mean, look, Tyron's not healthy. He's never really even been healthy consistently when he's in his prime, but yeah, and he's battling knee stuff. Yeah, I don't even think he's completely healthy. That's a good point, J-Rock. I'm just talking about just like the overall thing. Like I don't think it's like a whole thing. And former y'all aren't watching tackles, bro. Come on. Y'all ain't breaking down tape on all these tackles. Let's be serious. Let's be for real on that. I don't care if you played O-line wherever. Like you ain't watching that. Laramie Tunsil, Tyron Smith, travesty or not, I've given it enough time. The intriguing non-QB battles. We talked about Stroud. We talked about Flacco. D'Amico versus Stefanski with the tape in mind. Last time these two teams squared off, D'Amico's defense got completely shredded by Stefanski's offense. Now, D'Amico didn't have Will Anderson. He didn't have Blake Cashman. And Steven Nelson was basically on one leg. So there was that. Jalen Petrie also had the worst game of his career. So how does that chess match go? It's the same thing as Shane Steichen and D'Amico last week. except you have like a real recent visual of Cleveland's offense at their highest level versus D'Amico's defense. How is that going to look? We mentioned Amari Cooper. I think, David, I think the battle of the tight ends could be a really decisive factor in this game. And I know they're not covering each other, but just as far as the tight end production. Now, it looks like the Texans are going to get help at receiver. So it's crucial, but it's not as crucial for Dalton Schultz to have to carry a heavy load. Like if Robert Woods and Noah Brown can do their thing, it might not be as critical or as crucial. But Cleveland has one of the more underrated tight ends in the league right now. And I don't even know that he's underrated. I'm sure a lot of you probably, if you play fantasy, you've probably taken Njoku one of these years, expecting him to have a year like he did this year and been disappointed, although he's been finding his own recently. But Njoku had 81 catches, 882 yards, and 6 touchdowns this year. That's pretty damn good. And Joe Flacco likes throwing to him. And the other thing is the Texans are often very vulnerable when it comes to tight ends making plays in the intermediate passing game. Now, they do have Blake Cashman in, and he's their best cover guy. He didn't play last time the Texans faced the Browns. They also have Christian Harris, who's playing a lot better. Now, Denzel Perriman and Henry To'oTo'o, you don't want them to be in coverage too much, and really none of the other linebackers. But you do have Cashman, and that'll be interesting in Njoku. Dalton Schultz, 59 catches, 635, and 5 TD. Let's keep an eye on him and see, Tunsil does kind of free him up. Let's keep an eye on Dalton Schultz. Next battle, Cleveland's tackles suck. Garen Christian, he was on the Texans practice squad. He was not good enough to even hang around here when they were beat up on the offensive line. Will Anderson, Jonathan Grenard, they're going to play. Jonathan Grenard didn't sound like a guy who was preparing for spot duty. He sounded like a guy that at least now it's easy to get gassed up. Who knows what happens when you go on the field? But he sounded like a guy that expected to be somewhat close to full go. Anderson and Grenard versus the Cleveland tackles is going to be something to keep an eye on because they are very weak in that area. Next matchup, Jalen Petrie versus his last performance. It was bad. It was really bad. It hasn't been a very exciting or good season, I should say, for Jalen Petrie. D'Amico Ryans shouted him out at his press conference. Talked about those 5 interceptions. Keep doing it. Well, he hasn't had an interception this year. And the last time they faced the Browns, he got benched. This is a big opportunity for Jalen Petrie. He appears to be focused, ready to go. At least he's saying the right stuff. He was getting pretty hype against the Colts last game, mainly, though, on blitzes and gang tackles and stuff. It's going to be interesting because I can assure you that Kevin Stefanski and the offensive staff, they're going to try to find Jalen Petrie in situations in which he's going to have to use his cover skills. So keep an eye on that. He's going to have a lot of opportunity. Look, the other thing is Joe Flacco, even at his best, he'll throw it to you. He'll throw some interceptions. So maybe Jalen Petrie gets an interception yesterday, just kind of wipes away the disappointing season, and the vibes look up, and you find. I mean, I'm not ready to write Jalen Petrie off. I mean, he's a second-year guy. He's not even halfway through his rookie deal. But to say anything, to describe his season this year as anything other than disappointing, I mean, you're not even watching, and you're not holding him to the standard that he was held to at the start of the year. But he's got a chance to bounce back. So Jalen Petrie versus that last performance is the next battle to keep an eye on. We'll see how that goes. Next matchup, Browns fans versus Texans fans. Whew. Man, I think there's going to be a lot of orange at the stadium. I've seen a lot around town. I'm not sitting here saying it's going to be 50-50. I don't think it's going to be Steeler-like. I don't think it's going to be like when the Cowboys come to town, but I could see a decent 20%-ish, maybe 15% Browns fans, and they're going to be loud as hell, but they are all over the place right now. So I think, Texans fans, it's been a while since the stadium's been sold out. Hell, it might be 1,470 days like the last playoff game, if we're being honest, because you had the COVID in 2020, and then you had some dog-butted seasons where they were a lost cause. So, hell, it might be 1,470 since the sellout. It's going to be a lot of Texans fans. It's going to be a lot of excited Texans fans, but I do think there's going to be a lot of orange. So Browns fans versus Texans fans, when there's momentum swings, what is the crowd going to sound like? I do think there's going to be quite a lot of those. So had Sheldon Rankins on the radio show this week. As we do every week, we get a player straight off the practice field exclusively on Sports Radio 610, the Odyssey app, with myself and John Lopez. Sheldon Rankins was the guy this week. And, I kind of got a heads up on him before. Had talked to him in like media scrums, but never like one-on-one. And quite frankly, I'll be honest, like I'm not, hanging on every word that Sheldon Rankins is saying in media scrums. Do know he's battle tested, been in New Orleans, tore his Achilles. I know they gave him the most money this year that more than they gave any other free agent. But I was told he's just about that business, man. He's just about that business. And I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know if that means he's going to be giving me 3-word answers. I don't know. But yeah, he's about that business. He's not about, the in the loop, Landry Locker, John Lopez, like shtick, where you talk about ball, but you throw in some extra stuff. He's about ball. He's about business. And we got to talking a little bit about the personal life, but if you're hyped, and I can see that Rock says he's hyped. I see a lot of people talking about how hyped they are. I asked Sheldon Rankins, and I didn't really expect much. I just asked him, hey, CJ and them said that you spoke to the team and you had a message for them. What was the message? He gave me and you about as good of a look in that locker room as you can possibly get. If you're not excited, you're about to be excited. If you're excited, you're going to be even more excited. This is what one of the veteran leaders of the Texans said his message is to the Houston Texans before they take on the Cleveland Browns. Y'all ready for it? Let's listen to Sheldon Rankins.
Me, a couple other guys were asked to kind of just, paint the picture for guys. It's one thing to hear from your coach, and I think, sometimes it's just, good to hear from a different voice. I'm normally a lead by example guy. I'll pull guys aside and speak my piece here and there, but I'm normally the, quiet guy, but, generally when I speak, a lot of guys listen. So, just being able to share my experience with the playoffs and those moments I've had, and then just get guys to understand what's at stake. It's not a situation where, we could do it next year, we could do it the year after. I was just trying to impart that wisdom on guys where, like, you never know what could happen next year. This game is a 100% injury rate, trades happen, all types of things happen. So, when you have an opportunity to win, and you have the type of team that we have to be able to go as far as we believe we can go, I just wanted guys to really understand the magnitude of this moment and not take it as a moment to feel the pressure, but take it as a moment to embrace everything you've done to get to this point, because we have the talent, we have the skill, we have the technique, we have the tenacity, and we've proved that throughout the year. So not trying to put pressure on any of the guys, but get guys to understand, like, look, this isn't a 2, 3, 4 year project that we're just trying to build. Like, no, we are right here, right now, with everything right in front of us. Let's seize the opportunity. Let's be exactly who we talk about being and go out and dominate each time we take the field. Guys take that approach and buy into that, we'll be exactly where we want to be. And, we finished the season the right way on a win streak, and making sure we had to win our games to get in. And now we just continue that mindset, and nothing's going to be perfect at the end of the day. Continuing to play our brand of football, continue to buy into everything we've preached and harped on from day one, and understanding that we have the moment in time right now to do everything we've ever dreamed of. There's no need to look to another year. because it's right here in front of us. So, just trying to get guys to understand that. And I think guys, listened and took it to heart. And, you've seen the way we've flown around, these past few games. Like I said, it's never been perfect. It's not been, there's always things to correct. But at the end of the day, the mindset, the physicality, the determination, the will to do everything and anything to come out of there with a win has been on display. We expect nothing less from ourselves going forward.
Man, I like the message, man. I appreciate the answer too. My goodness, exclusive interviews every Thursday on the Show of Record in the Loop Sports Radio 610. That's what you want to hear from a vet right there. Sheldon Rankins. It's going to be really interesting to see what's going on. I think the confidence level's high around town. I think people are pumped. I think there's going to be a lot of Browns fans. I think it's going to add to the moment. I think it's going to be a loud environment. I think it's going to be a fired up environment. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. And it's two very likable teams. It's two teams who should be, although they should still be greedy because they both have very good chances of winning this game tomorrow. They should both be, when it's all said and done, proud of what they've done this year, whether it's CJ Stroud leading a team as a rookie, whether it's Joe Flacco kind of playing with house money, looking like perhaps his football career was over, overcoming all the Deshaun Watson extra garbage that was going on with them, the Texans overcoming injuries, D'Amico Ryans coming to town. I mean, this is a game that, be happy for either squad if they win. Two very likable teams, and it's going to be fun. And it seems like the Texans have had a hell of a week when it comes to news on the injury front, when it comes to the Denzel Ward news, although we don't know if he's going to play or not. It's been a hell of a week, and it's going to be a hell of a weekend. And I'm actually personally glad that they kick off the playoffs. I'm really excited to see what they bring. I'm excited to be out there. I'm excited to go to a game where the vibes are going to be high, and I'm just as excited to talk to y'all afterwards as soon as I get back from the stadium locker room post-game show, the top post-game show in town. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Playoff fever is here. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Best Texans coverage in the country. Appreciate you for coming through. Rest up, ice up, do what you got to do. Fire up the barbecue pit. Get ready to go out to the game. If you're out there, come by, say hi. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Playoff time, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room.